Okay, so picture this. You're paying through the nose for your electricity bill while a massive company gets handed £11 billion of your money to cut down ancient forests and burn, and they're calling it green energy.
The company's claims to be carbon neutral after replacing coal with biomass.
Welcome to the Drax scandal, where renewable has conveniently been redefined as, well, trees regrow eventually, probably, maybe. Last week, Britain's financial watchdog finally woke up from its decade-long nap and launched a proper investigation into Drax Group, the energy giant that's been playing a little bit fast and loose with the truth about where their wood actually comes from. The Financial Conduct Authority is now probing whether the company's been telling porkies to their investors about their biomass sourcing. But here's the delicious bit. This isn't just about dodgy paperwork. This is about the biggest environmental con job in British history, complete with a whistleblower who got the boot for asking inconvenient questions, internal emails calling civil servants rude names, and a secret KPMG report that everyone is dying to read. Let's start with the basics. Drax owns what they proudly call Britain's largest renewable power station in North Yorkshire. Renewable, you ask? Well, they burn wood. Lots and lots of wood. In fact, they're burning so much wood that they've become Britain's single largest source of CO2 emissions, pumping out 13.3 million tonnes in 1 year alone. But according to the government's own twisted logic, burning trees is carbon neutral because trees grow back, eventually. It's like calling a house fire temperature neutral because someday it will go out. Here's where it gets properly mental though. Since 2012, Drax has hoovered up around £11 billion in green energy subsidies from British taxpayers. That's $548 million just last year. Money that was supposed to go to actual renewable energy like wind and solar, which are now cheaper than fossil fuels and don't require chopping down forests. But Drax, they're still getting paid premium rates to burn trees, while wind and solar get nothing. It's like paying your mate Dave 50 quid to mow your lawn with scissors while the bloke with the proper lawnmower stands there for free. Enter Rowaa Ahmar, Drax's former head of public affairs. In 2022, she joined the company just weeks before the BBC's Panorama dropped a bombshell documentary showing that Drax was chopping down old-growth forests in Canada instead of using waste wood like they claimed. According to Employment Tribunal records, the documentary triggered what Ahmar called a level of chaos that I have never seen before inside Drax. Senior executives were trying at a high speed to read legislation and find loopholes in definitions, basically scrambling to figure out what lies they could get away with. When government officials started asking awkward questions like, where did this shipment of wood actually come from? You know, basic stuff, Drax couldn't answer. They were so clueless about their own supply chain that they had to ask for more time to do an audit that they'd already bloody done. Here's where it gets a bit sinister. Drax commissioned KPMG to investigate Panorama's allegations. The consultants found that yes, Drax had been misreporting data to the energy regulators about using unsustainable wood. Shocking, I know. But instead of coming clean, Drax's management told Ahmar not to share these findings with senior managers. When she later raised concerns with the CEO about misleading the government, the company tried to silence her with an NDA and a payoff. When she refused, they froze her out, placed her on indefinite leave and eventually sacked her. One executive allegedly told her to tell government civil servants to fuck off when they started asking questions. Classy. Ahmar's employment tribunal, which ended in a settlement this March, exposed the toxic culture inside Drax. Her union rep described it as a fractional snake pit with a toxic workplace culture of gossip and backstabbing. But more damning were the allegations about deliberate deception. Ahmar claimed that while Drax was telling government officials that their wood was sustainable, their own lawyers were admitting internally that it wasn't. The company was essentially running two sets of books, one for regulators and one for reality. So what happened when energy regulator Ofgem finally investigated? Well, they fined Drax a whopping £25 million. Yeah, I know it sounds like a lot, but it's roughly 5% of what Drax gets just in subsidies every year. It's like getting a parking ticket when you've robbed a bank. And here's the kicker. Ofgem found no evidence of deliberate misreporting because apparently when you can't provide evidence for your sustainability claims, fail to report burning primary forest wood, and need multiple KPMG reports to figure out your own supply chain, that's just an honest mistake. It's just a big oopsie poopsie. Remember that KPMG report? The one that supposedly revealed Drax's somewhat dodgy sourcing practices? It's still secret. Drax claims legal privilege and only they can release it. Even Parliament can't see it. It's like being investigated for fraud and saying, yes, officer, I have evidence of my innocence, but you can't see it. It's because it's private, you see. The fact that they're hiding this report tells you everything you need to know about what's in it, right? Faced with mounting evidence of environmental destruction and corporate deception, what did the government do? They gave Drax another $2 billion in subsidies through to 2031. Sure, they halved the payment and tightened some rules, but they're still handing over hundreds of millions to a company that can't prove its wood is actually sustainable. Energy Secretary Ed Miliband essentially said, "We know they're dodgy, but we need the electricity." The scandal goes far beyond one corrupt company. It's about a government policy so fundamentally flawed that it incentivizes environmental destruction while calling it green. The biomass industry has been marking its own homework for years with certification schemes that allow clear-cutting of primary forests as long as you tick the right boxes on the form. Meanwhile, genuinely renewable energy like wind and solar, which actually reduce emissions, get no subsidies at all. Which brings us to last week's news. The Financial Conduct Authority is finally investigating whether Drax misled investors about its biomass sourcing between 2022 and 2024. They're also checking if the company's annual reports complied with disclosure rules. Drax shares plummeted 12% when the investigation was announced. Investors are finally waking up to the fact that the company's entire business model depends on government subsidies for an environmentally destructive practice that the rest of the world is abandoning. The European Union has already tightened rules on biomass subsidies. The US is questioning whether burning trees should count as renewable energy. Even Canada, where much of Drax's wood comes from, is having second thoughts. Meanwhile, Britain continues to be a global laughingstock, funding the destruction of precious ecosystems while claiming to be climate leaders. It's like hosting a climate summit while your house is on fire. The FCA investigation raises serious questions that go beyond corporate governance. How did government officials not know what was happening? The Department for Energy was asking very basic questions about wood sourcing that Drax couldn't answer. Were they willfully blind or genuinely incompetent? Why are we still subsidizing biomass when wind and solar are cheaper? The only answers seem to be that Drax has spent years lobbying politicians and regulators to keep the gravy train running. What else is in that secret KPMG report, eh? If it exonerates Drax, why won't they release it? The fact that it's still hidden suggests that it contains something at least a little bit juicy. This isn't just about one company's greed, it's about regulatory capture on an industrial scale. Ofgem has been asleep at the wheel for over a decade while billions in subsidies flowed to questionable biomass operations. It's about a government that created a renewable energy scheme so poorly designed that it incentivizes cutting down trees instead of building wind farms. And it's about a financial system that allows companies to greenwash their operations with impunity, knowing that even if they do get caught, the penalties are so tiny compared to the profits. The Drax scandal is the perfect microcosm of everything wrong with British policymaking. Good intentions, corrupted by corporate lobbying, regulators captured by the industries they're supposed to oversee, and taxpayers funding environmental destruction in the name of saving the planet. The FCA investigation might finally bring some accountability, but don't hold your breath. This is the same regulatory system that took a decade to notice that Britain's largest renewable energy company couldn't prove its fuel was actually renewable. The real scandal isn't just that Drax has been burning ancient forests for profits, it's that everyone in power knew it was happening and kept writing checks anyway. So the next time your energy bill arrives, remember that you're not just paying for electricity, you're funding one of the greatest environmental cons in history. And the people responsible are still cashing your checks while ancient forests burn down. The question is, how long will you let them get away with it? What's your take on the Drax scandal? Are you as outraged as you should be? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to share this with anyone who thinks renewable energy actually means renewable.